Rangers fans, welcome to season 3 of Liberty Blue. I'm Andrew Chelney. That's Nick Zararis. And Nick, the Rangers are so back. And what I mean by that is they are physically on the ice, and that's kind of about it.
It was a very weird weekend. First of all, two matinee games back-to-back days, terrible. Just like from a viewing perspective,
5:30?
I hate a
5:30.
matinee hockey game because it messes up my weekend plans where like usually I'm trying to run around to get things done during the day. So that way by the time the evening rolls around, whatever I'm doing that given day can be taken care of. But man, that Buffalo game, and it's very weird that they got smoked by Buffalo back in November. They got smoked one game last year by Buffalo. I was at that game, which is why I so vividly remember it. I don't know if it's something specific about the Sabres and the guys they have that really like that, something the Rangers have that's a deficiency that Buffalo can exploit really well. But like, this is the NHL. There are no easy games. Even as bad as Buffalo is, I think they're 16th in the East. I think
They're the worst team in the Eastern Conference, yeah.
they are
And they
16th in the
hung an
East.
8-piece on the Rangers.
And you had Shesterkin give up 5 in the first period, him get yanked. You had effectively a total no-show from everyone on your team. And
Yep.
you had to sit there and regroup and come back out the next day and play a Pittsburgh team that for all intents and purposes knows their season's over as well. It's just a matter of, are we going to trade Erik Karlsson and Brian Russ now, or are we going to trade them in the summer? That's really all that Pittsburgh has left. And if it weren't for Shesterkin, they probably lose that game too. Because if you'll recall, before they scored the goal to make it 2-1, they were being outshot like 25-5 through the first 30 minutes of that game and couldn't get zone time, couldn't hold on to the puck. And this is a Pittsburgh team that's playing guys like Kevin Hayes and Anthony Beauvillier and Cody Glass. That's not exactly, the Yager Lemieux Penguins of the early 90s. That's not a good team, but they won the game. So you take a deep breath, you re-rack. Tuesday will be here. You got the Islanders on Tuesday, which is a significantly more important game for the Islanders, who kind of have playoff hopes and are significantly more alive in them for the Rangers. But I want to start the conversation.
The Islanders have lost 3 in a row, and now they are kind of falling off the face of the earth right now as well.
It's really all a matter of who has a good week. That's really all it takes. You win 2 of your 3 games in a week, and you're right back in the mix. There's a world where the Rangers could be like 2 points out of a playoff spot after Tuesday if you get the right permutations of wins and losses of the games that are played.
Think of it this way: the Senators have lost 4 in a row. They're at 62 points. The Blue Jackets are at 62 points. The Bruins are at 61. The Rangers are at 60, and the Islanders are at 57. So are the Canadiens. This is almost as if we're running it back from last season, where there's spots available and no one wants them because everyone's just losing at the same time.
It's the SpongeBob. No, you can have it. Yeah. Give it to him, SpongeBob. Stand up for yourself. Here, you can have it. And that's been that second wild card spot for 3 months now. None of these teams are good.
No.
These are all teams vying for the opportunity to be last year's Washington Capitals. And I was talking to one of my friends over the weekend. He's like, how funny would it be if someone snuck in and then upset the Capitals in the first round after they were that team last year? But it's not out of the realm of possibility. Washington is a very funky team, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But I want to start today's episode with a big conversation, and I can't answer authoritatively because I can't psychoanalyze all 20 of these guys. I can't sit them down in my armchair and pick their brains. But the way the guys on the team, Trocheck in specific, he said something about this. They were talking about, I can't believe how bad our effort was. Fundamentally, if we are in February and you are still struggling to get up 4 games that are effectively playoff games every single night, that you need, to be goaded into the fight, that you need to play Matt Rempe to forecheck, that you need JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck and Will Cooley grabbing guys after whistles to try and manufacture some energy, I think fundamentally you're missing the boat here. I think more than anything, they don't have the guys. We said a few weeks ago, they're just not talented enough. And that might be a confidence thing. That might be a Murphy's Law season type deal where everyone is worse than they were last year. But I think fundamentally, if you're still talking about effort In games you're giving up 8 goals.
Yeah.
I think you're either outright lying and trying to just say something nice to mitigate the fact that the team is bad, or you're just delusional because this team is bad. Objectively, this team is bad.
This team is not good. And the thing about this too is you're talking about effort deep into February. Well, at the time you were, what was it, 3 or 4 points out of a playoff spot. You're going into a game in Buffalo against the worst team in the Eastern Conference, a team that not only isn't making the playoffs, like they're going to sell again, that the whole like city's in shambles with the palm trees with the Kevin Adams is like the whole team is a dumpster fire. And the Buffalo Sabres, that same team, skated circles around the team that's supposedly in the playoff hunt. After a 2-week break, I understand, the Rangers had a few players play in the Four Nations, and if you want to give those guys a little bit of leeway, okay, like we can have that conversation. But overall, this is every game from now on is a playoff game for the Rangers. If they are serious about trying to make a push, then every single game is a game 7 for them until the playoffs. That is how it's supposed to be treated. That's how I feel like they know every game is supposed to be treated. And yet they go into Buffalo and get absolutely humiliated. Now, how much of that is on Shesterkin? How much of that is on X player, Y player? We can argue about, if you want to split hairs like that, we can. But overall, the team effort was abysmally horrendous. That's, at the end of the day, that is the message that they sent. You had a 2-week break. You came back essentially against, with a layup from all of the teams they could have played the game after the 2-week break. Buffalo should have been one of the easiest ones to handle. Now, again, like you said, it's the NHL. There are no easy games. Buffalo can and will dumpster you if you give them the opportunity, so like the Rangers did. But the Rangers, at least on paper, which is now, a big caveat to all this.
I'm that Jimmy Butler holding up that piece of paper meme when we're talking about the lineup on paper.
On paper, the Rangers should have destroyed Buffalo easily. And yet it was the other way around. And the Rangers had the nerve to be like, oh, well, I can't believe how bad our effort was. I can't. And Peter Laviolette was like, oh, well, something along the lines of, oh, well, I'd have to sit a bunch of guys if we wanted to talk about, the lack of effort. You're the head coach, dog.
That's a reflection on you, man.
That's on you, bro. Like, what are you talking? Like, dude, yes. Like, if you can't in good faith come out and say, oh, well, I'd have to sit a bunch of guys if then do that. Literally go do that.
We said
this. What are we talking about here?
At the week of the Christmas break, I remember coming on this show and saying vividly, if I were trying to get the ship going in the right direction, we're starting day one. We're starting like it's day one. Everyone has a clean slate. What you've done to this point doesn't matter. But after a game or two, we're running a strict meritocracy. If you're not moving your feet, if you're puck watching, if you're not on your guy in the defensive zone, you're losing a shift. We're going to someone else because when you are, and that's what you do at every level of sport. When you are coaching high school kids, when you are coaching peewee kids, you run a strict meritocracy because no one is entitled to playing time. No one has a big contract. No one has an agent. No one has no trade clauses. It is simply, we need to play the best players the most minutes. The guys, and I hate to go like full like Facebook dad here, but like the old Derek Jeter quote about hard work beating talent every time. You saw that. Yes, you saw that on Saturday. The Sabres tried and they smoked the Rangers because the Rangers think they're entitled to winning hockey games just by showing up. I can tie back to, you remember the episode we did December, like the week after the Trouba helmet throw. They played the Blues. The thumbnail for that episode was Glenn Sather standing behind the bench in 2002 after he fired the coach and the GM and made himself the head coach for the final 20 games of the season. And there was the argument, well, if you want the Rangers to be Stanley Cup caliber good, wouldn't it be better if they just ripped the Band-Aid off, fired Gallant now, tried to start making headway on what the next iteration of the team is going to look like? And you're kind of seeing that happen right now in real time 2 years later, where it's very clear that this group, the Zibanejad, Panarin, Kreider, Trocheck, Lafreniere, you can throw Miller in there now, K'Andre Miller, Adam Fox, Shesterkin. That group is not good enough. We have fundamentally established that group is not good enough, and it very well might be getting worse. You know, I was having a conversation with someone on Twitter after the game on Saturday about, well, he had asked, do you think there's still enough here that they can salvage this, that they can remake the team around what's here? And I think fundamentally, Panarin's older. Panarin's going to have like a 35, 40 point drop off year over year from last year to this year. And like 80 something points is still good. He's still going to lead the team in points. But that's not the best player on a team that wins a Stanley Cup anymore. I don't think JT Miller is the best forward on a Stanley Cup winning team. We know Zibanejad is having his struggles. We know Kreider is having his struggles. We know Trocheck is going to try and stubbornly play through the rest of the season with a broken finger, even though, his most valuable trait is his ability to win faceoffs, and he can't win faceoffs with a broken finger. So we're kind of reaching that inflection point of, well, if we all know the group isn't good enough, and even if you add to this group, even if you like dropped a great player into this group, and you already kind of tried to do that in dropping JT Miller in here, that's not going to get the attention to detail and the effort that's requisite with winning. That game against the Sabres, that was in the details. That was in guys passing off people in zone, in coverage. That was paying attention in transition and knowing where you needed to be. And it was just making the right play. If you dropped Connor McDavid onto this team Tuesday against the Islanders, sure, they'd score more goals. They'd also give just as many back as they're already doing, which is fundamentally the issue.
Right.
And it's why you can't keep talking to me about effort, because these have been the issues. It's just now they're not outscoring their problems like they have in years past. The defense, even when they were in the conference final against Tampa Bay, wasn't good. Against the Devils, it wasn't good. Against Florida last year, it wasn't good. It's just that they were able to score enough that their defensive woes weren't an issue. And then what happens in the playoffs? It's harder to score. The games become a lot more coin flippy. And if you lose coin flips, you lose the series. So I'm just kind of at a point where, and I think Bob Kawa said this on Twitter. I want to give Bob credit for saying it. This is one of the least likable teams ever, because I'd rather root for a team that's not good, that tries their ass off, than a team of stars that doesn't seem particularly engaged or interested in winning. Because that's the goal here, Andrew. I don't know if you know that or not, but we play sports to win the game, not to make friends, not to get no trade clauses, not to get penthouses, not to go to Nobu, not to date Instagram models. We play sports to win games.
I tweeted this out yesterday on Sunday when, after the 8-2 dumpstering, a lot of the players came out and they hated the effort. Again, this is late February and you're playing for a playoff spot. If you're talking about effort, and
you're playing the Sabres after being on vacation for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say about that, but also, okay, so you hated the effort against Buffalo. Okay, sure. Then you go into Pittsburgh. Now, at the end of the day, they won the game, but for like 50 of those 60 minutes, they once again played like they didn't want to be there. They once again came out less than 24 hours after, puffing their chests about hating their effort, how badly they played. They have to get better. That all these sweet nothings that they whispered into our ears, they came out against an almost equally as bad Pittsburgh Penguins team and had to rely on Shesterkin to save the game in order for them to win. Like, yeah, they scored 4 goals and the empty netter at the end of the day, and Blomqvist gave up a couple that maybe he shouldn't have, and all these things, and the Rangers did end up winning the game. But for like 50 of the 60 minutes, the Rangers looked like they did not want to be there, which again tells me, why are you yapping post game about your effort when you're not showing me that you are actively changing anything on the ice? It's the same song and dance. You don't have to. Why are you telling me about your effort? Dog, go show it to me.
We don't play for the Rangers, Andrew. We're not on the team. Like, it's great that they can acknowledge and recognize the effort isn't good enough, but that's something on you, man. That is fundamentally on you. And I want to tie Laviolette into this part of the conversation as far as the effort, because I don't think it's his fault the team is just objectively bad. I do think he is actively making his own job harder with some of the things he says and things he does.
Sure.
If you wanted to run this as a strict meritocracy, you would have had Filipino, Capocaco, and Will Cooley as this team's first line in November when they were the only line on this team with a pulse. If everyone recalls, that line started the year. They outscored opponents 14-0 5-on-5 to start the season.
2 of those guys, by the way, are no longer on the team.
And it's funny that you traded away Filipino, the most shooty first forward you have, and you have these games where you go 20 minutes with 4 scoring chances. You think about that game on Saturday, you think about the game yesterday against Pittsburgh, you think about that game against the Bruins on a Saturday before the break where it was midway through the second period and they had 9 shots on goal, 30 some odd minutes into the game. You get to a point where if nobody wants to shoot the puck, you're gaining the zone. You're not doing anything when you get there. And look, fundamentally, I understand there's a difference between giving up chances and then how much heat you're able to withstand. But if you spend the entire game in your own end and you are expecting your goalie to bail you out and your defenseman to bail you out, and I think that's what irks me the most is, where you see effort from your forward group? In the defensive zone, when they have to win a puck battle and try and go from defense to offense. And far too often, the Rangers have their forwards lightly floating around the zone. They're not below the goal line, reinforcing defensemen trying to win puck battles. And I am tired of blocking shots and throwing checks being considered good defense, because it's not. It's a component of defense.
Right. By the way, all of that means you don't have the puck.
Yes. And that is part of a toolbox of an effective defensive player. It is. But that just means, and this is the hard part for some people to get, being noticeable doesn't necessarily correlate with being good at it. We talk about guys who are very high usage rate in basketball. They might not be very efficient at it, but they're noticeable. They have the ball a lot. They're making plays. In hockey, it's very similar to defense. If you talk to a certain person, they would tell you Brock Faber and Jacob Slavin spent the entire game in their own zone in the Four Nations faceoff. And if you talk to some people, they would say, well, Jacob Slavin was Clamps McGee. He was blocking shots. He was preventing chances from getting through the middle of the ice. And it's really a matter of how much you understand, because there's a certain, tipping point in that relationship of how much time can you spend in your own zone, even if it's low quality, before it starts to wear away at you. And I think when you look at the Rangers and they have one defenseman who is consistently able to break the puck out cleanly without turning it over.
He's getting a lot of heat also for some reason.
We're going to get there. Yeah. We're going to get there, because I think it's interesting, and I think it's very reminiscent of the conversation that often comes around Shesterkin, where Ranger fans don't understand that like everybody else in the league would kill to have that guy on their team. And we've been kind of spoiled by the fact he's been so good for a half decade now. Adam Fox is already in year 6, and everyone's kind of like, well, isn't he supposed to be Norris Trophy good? And he's only like the 11th or 12th best defenseman in the NHL. And people are kind of up in arms about that. But I'm tired of hearing about effort, and I'm tired of guys who are supposed to be the leaders on this team, like Trocheck, like Miller, like Zibanejad, like Kreider, just giving me, well, I didn't like our effort. We need to be better. You guys just aren't good. It's February. If you're still telling me you can't get up for these moments and your effort is in question, you better be injured or you have to be outright stupid. Those are really the only 2 options.
The dogs that bark the loudest are the ones with no teeth. If you are going to consistently get up on your soapbox post-game and tell me you're, oh, I didn't like our effort. Oh, we just got to play better. Brother, it's going to be March in like 5 days. We can't be doing this. We're 57 games into the season. The Rangers have 25 games left. It is going to be March this time our next episode will be in the month of March.
We'll be 2 days away from the trade deadline.
How are you talking to me and the rest of the fan base about effort? Like, it's such a hollow talking point at this point. Like, there's just no way that a supposed Stanley Cup contender team, forget about Stanley Cup, a playoff contender, I guess at this point, maybe. There's no way a team that has playoff aspirations turns around and deep into February is complaining about, one, their effort, and then two, also turning around after that and not showing any improvement for the vast majority of their next game. Like, it's just all of it rings empty. Because if you really meant it, first of all, you'd show it to me. A lot of this is show me, don't tell me, right? You can tell me that you didn't like your effort, that, oh, we got to be quicker, we got to be, more aggressive, whatever. But if you're not showing it to me during the game, I don't care. I don't like you yapping in my ear is not going to make me believe that you're a playoff team. You know what'll make me believe you're a playoff team? You going out there and playing like one. That's it. Like, don't whisper in my ear. Don't tell me all the things I want to hear. Go out there and prove it to me. Until that happens, like, I'm not changing my opinion. It's not a playoff team, and it hasn't been, by the way that they are playing and by their attitude. Their attitude sucks.
Yeah.
Their attitude is the worst. Like, if you're so mad that you played like ass, that Buffalo destroyed you, you should have in turn then destroyed Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was destroying you for like 4/5 of the game. How is that going to happen? How is that possible? Your effort is awful. Your attitude stinks. And that's why you're not in a playoff spot. It's as simple as that.
It's a mentality thing. It fundamentally is a mentality team, and you can say all the right things as much as you want. And I'm going to make a comparison. So the Oilers lost both of their games over the weekend pretty badly to Washington and Philadelphia. And the answer I'm trying to come to is that just simply, a low watermark? The Oilers just bad 2 games against okay in Philly and good teams in Washington. Or is this, the dam beginning to break? Is this the team's fatal flaws being exposed at a key point in the season? And because of that, they need to dramatically alter their course. This is not the case with the Rangers. This is who the Rangers are. This isn't like a low watermark. This isn't like, oh, we didn't know this about them. This is fundamentally who they are.
When people show you who they are, believe them. This is who they are.
They have talent. But if they don't use it, they don't have talent. I got a snarky comment from someone a few weeks ago who said something along the lines of, well, talent's innate. It doesn't just go away. If you don't use it, yes, it does. You have to constantly work at something to get better at it or to maintain what you already have. If you're consistently running 3 miles every day and then you stop running for 2 months, that first 3-mile run is going to be more difficult. If you lift weights every day and you start to get into a routine and then you don't lift for a few weeks, that first lift back is going to be difficult. So no, talent is not innate. If Mika Zibanejad's talent was innate, he would still be a point per game player. If Panarin's talent was innate, he would be a Hart Trophy guy every year. But because talent ebbs and flows and how you express that talent ebbs and flows, you do constantly have to work at it. And fundamentally, if you still think there's a salvageable core of this team where if you pick and choose the right guys out of here, out of this debris, you could still build something, build something out of the ashes of the old house, you got to start working on that now. And I hate to revisit this conversation within this larger one because I don't think it matters all that much, but if you think there's a captain in this group of guys, you're delusional.
Yeah.
You're delusional if you think any of these guys deserve to be a captain. If you had a captain in this group, the effort on Saturday would not have stood the way it did on Sunday.
Right.
You would not have sat around on Sunday waiting for someone to make a play. Lo and behold, it's Will Cooley, one of the guys. You're not really...
If anything, Will Cooley should be the captain of this team.
He's at least showing you he's willing to move his ass and try something. That's one of the things the Rangers have really struggled with in identifying a captain. It's not just about being a good guy. It's not just about commanding respect. At a certain point, you do need to be able to lead by example as well. You need to be able to go out there and make a play to materially change the game state. Connor McDavid is not the most rah-rah in your face pounding chest guy. But the guys on that team look at him and say, if he's going to bust his ass as hard as he does out there every shift, I'm going to go out there and give it right back. I'm going to go out there and try. And it's a shame that the only player we hear that about is Matt Rempe, who plays 6 minutes a game of he's in the lineup. He gets us fired up. Well, you got outshot 9-3 in his 6 minutes of the game, and he can't play the final 10 minutes, but it's great you guys like him.
Yeah. Also, I like. I did want to bring this up because I just saw this on Twitter. Al Trotwick passed away
Yeah, I had
today.
heard, I saw, but I wasn't sure if it had been confirmed or not yet. But
Alan Hahn posted it.
yeah,
Yeah, there's. I just wanted to and Fischler also
yeah,
brought this up. No, I hate to put a halt to the conversation, but like it is important that we highlight Al Trodwig, and hopefully he rests in peace and his family gets a lot of love and support, because Al has been a staple of New York sports for
synonymous with New
a
York sports.
very, very long
He was
decades, very
he
long time.
he's so synonymous with sports in the greater New York area that he covered the Yankees when they were still on MSG Network and
Yeah,
covered hockey when it was on the USA Network.
yeah.
That's how long Al Trautwig was running the game. I mean, I vividly recall. I don't remember whose interview it was with Howie Rose, the voice of the Mets on the radio. Now he used to do the Islanders on TV,
With
but
Joe Micheletti.
yeah, Howie said something along the lines of, when I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be in TV, I turned to Al. I asked Al about what you do, how you kind of do the mechanics of the job, and then from there on out, anytime a young person would ask Howie Rose, who should I talk to, who should I look up to, it was Al. Synonymous. Knicks and Rangers, always doing studio stuff for MSG. Very unceremoniously left in the middle of the season, wasn't renewed, lingered around the discourse, popped in on Twitter every now and then. I vaguely recall someone giving him a hard time on Twitter, and he found the guy's mom and called his mom's house and told him
That's right.
her son was being rude on the internet, and this was a grown man who was like 40 something. And
Yeah.
she's like, Mr. Troutwig, he hasn't lived here in 20 years. He's a grown man now. And Al said, don't worry, I'll find him. That's the type of guy Al was.
I mean, Al was terrific, and
In
yeah,
Cool Runnings is the voice of bobsledding as well,
that's
if you'll
right.
recall.
Oh my God. Yeah, you just can't have, we're a Rangers podcast through and through, and you can't talk about the Rangers without mentioning Al Trotwig. And the fact that he's not here is makes the not only the sports world but just the world a worse place than it was the day before. So rest in peace to Al, and we miss you. Clearly, we miss you. The rest of the sports world misses you as well. And yeah, there's trying to replicate Al is gonna be is impossible.
One of the great
So
voices,
yeah.
really deep voice, really like that's what a TV person sounds like. I forget who it was. I want to say it was Mike Francesa was talking about it, where he's like, if there were guys he grew up with, he's like, they just started chain smoking cigarettes to try and get a deeper voice to be able to mimic the kind of tone register that guys like Al Trautwig had naturally. And that's an important part of that authoritative presence on TV, is being able to command a room and use your voice kind of almost as an instrument and hitting certain registers. And it's been weird. MSG Network has kind of tried to hodgepodge together whatever their coverage is going to be going forward. And very grateful that we're actually able to watch them legally on Optimum again after 50 some odd days. But yeah, one of the real presences, that I'll tell a quick Al story because it's on the subject. So after a game in October, I forget if it was 2017 or 2018, I got a beer and a slice from Rose's. I got back on the train because I was still in college on Long Island, and train was really crowded for some reason, even though it was the 10:42 going back out to Long Island. And so usually if the train gets crowded, people actually double up as opposed to spacing out. And I was looking out the window at my phone, and I looked to my left, and it's Al Trautwig sitting next to me with his backpack on his lap, his headphones on, and he pulls his phone out of his pocket. And it was during October, it was early in the year. He had a baseball game on. He was streaming one of the playoff games, and I wasn't being subtle. I was very much peeking over his shoulder trying to watch the game that he was streaming on his phone. And he pulls his headphone over his ear and he goes, "You could just ask me to angle the phone," and then put his headphone back on. And that was it. That
I
was it.
love that.
That was I didn't say a word. He just said, "You could have asked me to angle the phone," and he put his headphone back on and he got off at his stop. But that's the kind of person Al Trautwig was.
I love that story. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's it's a hole in sports media coverage that is good. I don't know if that's ever going to be filled, just because of how Al did things and the way he conducted himself, and just the professionalism he brought to covering any sport that he did. And yeah, it's I know he wasn't on MSG for a couple of years now, but when he was doing the games, it was beneficial to have him there versus now, of course.
Yeah, one of the real, institutional figures, one of the real presences on MSG Network, which has been, a revolving door. Those
Yeah.
regional networks, that and SNY. A lot of people just go through there, passing through there on the way to bigger and greener pastures. And Al was there basically from the inception to for 30 some odd years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long, admirable career that a lot of people wish they could live up to and aspire to live up to.
Yep. No, I would agree. It's a lot of people will take a regional job as a platform to jump to national, and guys like Al don't come around every so often. But he hung. Not only did he hang around, like he made it his own. And people that are in the tri-state area that have always listened to Al, like like us and millions of others, cherished the things that he did and the things that he brought to the table. And yeah, it's going to be tough now without him.
Rest in peace to Al Troutwig.
Recipes.
Revisiting and tying a bow on our opening conversation, and just so we could start to segue towards another topic. Part of this conversation, and I think this is a really good example of recency bias, and we're going to talk about it in the context of Adam Fox and the Four Nations face-off, but I think a lot of people don't understand what makes Adam Fox effective. There's that joke, the tweet of, I just learned what recency bias is. It's my favorite bias. That's kind of how I feel about this discourse around Adam Fox right now, because he's never been a body banging, checking, hard hitting guy. He's never been physically imposing. He's never been particularly fast. If you go and look, the NHL Edge website, which has 4 years of data from 2021 to the present, Adam Fox has never been above the 55th percentile in skate speed, in top skate speed bursts over 18 to 22 miles per hour. He's never been an elite skater. Adam Fox's game is entirely positioning, IQ, and instincts. Because of that, when he gets put in those defense first situations in and around the net front, below the goal line, he's going to have to work harder. He's going to look a little more out of place because he's not the strongest guy. He's not the biggest guy. And one thing I want to point out, Adam Fox is at his best when the Rangers, or in that case, when his team has the puck and they are going from defense to offense quickly, and he can augment the attack in the offensive zone as the fourth forward. Because teams Adam Fox plays on have the puck so much in the offensive zone, he plays less defense overall. So
Which is the goal, by the way.
Which is the goal of the game, yes. Yeah. But because I'm going to throw these numbers out as a hypothetical, but let's say the Rangers are in the offensive zone for 15 scoring chances for, they're in the defensive zone for 8 scoring chances against. Even though they had almost twice as much offense as they did defense, if 2 of those 8 scoring chances against are high danger or close to the net, particularly stand out, they're going to stick in your brain. That 1 out of 4, because 2 out of 8, 1 out of 4, they're going to be more pressing in your mind than the 15 scoring chances for, especially if you don't get a goal down at the other end. So I want to point that out, that even though he's still winning his minutes, the Rangers have never lost Adam Fox minutes in terms of goals at any season or in any postseason for his 6 years in the NHL, or in the 3 real playoff runs, not counting the Carolina play-in round. So I think fundamentally, I understand the frustration in and around the net front, and I understand a lot of people feel that if Adam Fox is as good as people like Andrew think he is, the team would be better. And I think that's a lot of the frustration. I just think a lot of people feel that if the team is as bad as it is right now, these guys can't possibly be as good as we say they are. And I get that. Fundamentally, I get it, that you feel as a fan that if you are paying a defenseman 9.5 and Shesterkin, the 12.5 he's going to get next year, the team needs to be better. I think those are reasonable gripes. But I think you need to point the finger at guys who are significantly more culpable in the team's failures than the team's 2 best players over the last half decade.
Listen, again, if you are blaming Adam Fox for the reason the Rangers are losing games, you simply don't know what you're watching. Like, there's no better highlight of the eye test being completely random and up to the eye of the beholder than with this Adam Fox discourse. You mean to tell me that you think Adam Fox had a bad tournament? I mean, like, the analytics show that he had a great tournament, a solid tournament. Even if you hate analytics, like, a lot of people will equate big hits or fast skating to being a good defenseman, which again, neither of those things have anything to do with being good defensively. Like, yeah, would you rather Adam Fox be faster than what he is now? Yeah, sure. That's not going to hurt, but like, he is one of the best defensemen on the planet with his deficiency of not being the fastest skater, on the ice. So he's really good at what he does. He's incredibly, solid. When the team, whether that be Team USA or the Rangers, when Adam Fox is on the ice, the team that he's playing for is instantly a better defensive team, and that is not a hot take. That is probably the coldest take that I could probably have
because
on
they're
the
playing
show.
less defense.
Adam Fox is good at hockey. Like, I'm not breaking any news here. He's really good at what he does. So this discourse of, he had a bad tournament, Adam Fox is one of the reasons Rangers are losing. Like, at a certain point, I've already lost a good amount of nerves, and probably have shortened my lifespan watching this team play and thinking way too much about them because I'm crazy, just like you, Nick. Like, both of us are complete psychos when it comes to this team, and we give way too much time thinking about the margins and how to make this team better and all that. I've already done that. Like, I can't spend more time arguing with people that don't understand what they're watching and trying to convince them otherwise. Like, at a certain point, if you choose to be silly about Adam Fox, okay, have at it. Like, it's kind of over for me at this point to argue with these people, because you're just not going to get through. Like, if you are, if you're taking a test and the question is asking you what 2 + 2 is, and you continue to yell from the rooftops, the answer is 9, and like, that's your stance, at a certain point, brother, go for it. Like, I'm not here to convince you otherwise that the answer is anything other than 9. If you so firmly believe that, and like, that's, and and with your loopholes, and if whatever, you somehow manage to conclude that 2 + 2 is 9, I'm not here to get in your way. I know what the truth is, which is that the answer is not 9. But if you continue to be super loud that it's not 4, have at it. Like, it's just not a good time investment to argue with these people, because Adam Fox is one of the best defensemen on the planet. He's far and away, again, not a hot take, the best defenseman on the Rangers. So yeah, is he having a perfect season? The answer is no. But like, the list of problems above Adam Fox is so high on the, like, there's so many things that are more broken with the Rangers than Adam Fox. Like, can we please turn your brains on, please watch the games carefully, watch Adam Fox carefully, dig into the analytics, dig into every angle, and then form your opinion. Like, it's completely insane to me that people will look at Adam Fox and also look at the Rangers and say, yeah, Adam Fox is one of the biggest problems. Dog, please. Like, I'm losing my mind.
The problem, and this is a societal issue. This isn't just a hockey conversation issue. The problem is that social media rewards people who are able to garner reactions. It's the easiest way to garner reactions, to be incendiary, to be inflammatory. And the reason we can't have great conversations as far as the eye test is because everybody watches differently. Everybody brings their own experiences and their own opinions to what they're watching. Some people are just looking at the puck. Some people are looking at the play developing away from the puck. Or if you're doing a deep dive, you're only watching a specific one player and how they operate within that environment. If you're just following the puck, you're going to miss components of the game. If you're just following the play away from the puck, you're going to miss the decision making that goes into setting up the play, so on and so forth. That's why it's hard to have these types of conversations, because I can point to the numbers. The Rangers, in Adam Fox's NHL career, the Rangers have outscored opponents 339 to 250 something. They have a demonstrative goals edge in Adam Fox's minutes in the regular season and in the postseason. I had somebody in my mentions a few days ago saying he's the reason they lost the series to the Devils 2 years ago. The Rangers won Adam Fox's minutes 7-5 in goals for and against in that Devils series 2 years ago. It's just
those people aren't serious. That's where
the eye test versus the actual game. It's the same point in the conversation where people are like, well, yeah, you never played hockey. Respectfully, yes, I did, but I don't have the arrogance to presume that me playing hockey when I was 14 years old is comparable to being in the NHL. In the same way that driving a car to the gas station to get gas doesn't make me qualified to comment on Formula One or NASCAR. Can you make informed opinions based on your experiences? Sure, they can absolutely augment. But again, that is called anecdotal evidence because it's based on an anecdote. If you go and look at the data and you go and look at the stats, sure, is there a little bit of a misalignment in particular this year? Adam Fox has already been on the ice for as many goals against this year as he was the entirety of last year. Is that valid to say? Yeah. If the numbers say that, yeah, he has been on the ice for a lot more goals against this year than he was last year. But if you go and look at the other components, you look at scoring chances, shots on goal, expected goals, and high danger chances, the Rangers are actually doing better in all of those categories in Adam Fox minutes this year. The only difference is they are scoring about 2% less goals per 2% less goals. So that might not sound like a lot, but 2% over the course of, what have we played, 57 games?
Yeah.
We're probably talking about a handful, 5-6 goals. 5-6 goals in a lot of these games that they've lost over the last 2 months. Swinging the other way, you're very much in a playoff spot. That's the variance. That's the degree of detail that goes into this, because I can't agree with people saying Adam Fox is having a bad season, because he's not. Is he having a bad season by Adam Fox standards? Sure, you could say that. I think that's very much the same conversation as Shesterkin, where is he having a bad goaltending season? No. Is he having a bad season by his standards? Yes. That gets back to what I had said before about being spoiled and not recognizing what you have. There may be 7 or 8 defensemen in the world better than Adam Fox. And using 3 games over the course of a week and a half where he's playing with guys he hasn't played with before, for a coach he hasn't played for before, I think we're taking too much away from recency bias and anecdotal evidence. Now, if Adam Fox plays like this next year and, the foot speed and the losing puck battles, and they still can't get him a competent partner, which is something we should probably mention at some point in this conversation as well, I think then we can start to have a conversation.
They probably do have one in Zach Jones, but that's a whole other argument for a whole other day.
Zach Jones, I don't know if people know this, but I'll give you the stat. Zach Jones is actually the Rangers' best defenseman in terms of preventing zone entries, in terms of preventing the other team from going through the neutral zone.
Oh, it's not Ryan Lindgren? No, it's not Will Borgen? No way,
Will Borgen is the single most passive defenseman in the entire NHL in terms of letting guys go past him, because he doesn't have great foot speed. He drops back and he gives them more space. He's almost in the exact same spot on the scatter plot as Jacob Trouba was in years past, where they tell Andre's partner, play as deep as you possibly can, let them go around, keep them to the outside. And of course, that doesn't work very well in today's NHL because everyone is fast and everyone is skilled. You can't let guys build up speed and attack the net with speed. But to tie a bow on the Adam Fox thing, yes. Can you say he was on the ice for too many goals against and you would like him to be more physical? Sure. He's never going to be a physical guy. That's just not in his toolbox. It's asking a fish to climb a tree. Does he need to be better? Yes. Is it
Sure.
a fatal flaw? No. He won the Norris Trophy 3 years ago. He finished second 2 years ago. He arguably should have won it, but Erik Karlsson had 100 points on a 20-something win Sharks team, so they gave it to him, and he finished fourth last year. This is undoubtedly one of the 10 best defensemen in the world. Guys can have a bad week. They can have a bad week and a half. That's part of hockey. It's a high variance game. We can revisit this conversation a year from now. And if he is still not playing as well as people would like defensively, then it's more worthy of a conversation. But I don't think Adam Fox is the Rangers' problem.
No, I would agree. Like, I think that's absolutely fair. And like, Adam Fox has earned the leash that he currently has. Like, as the ambulance that is driving by my house agrees. Like, they clearly they would agree with what we're saying. It's just, you know, when you play as well as you do and you have like a week of not pristine excellence, you can get a pass because of all the other weeks you've had that have objectively been great. When you have other guys in the lineup that have had weeks, months, if not years of playing not up to their standards, not only is their leash a lot shorter, but the fact that they continue to have a long leash from the coaching staff should give you a lot more red flags than Adam Fox having a bad week. Like, the way a lot of fans, specifically Rangers fans in this context, we're talking about Adam Fox, are giving away their anger to things that don't need it is very strange to me. Why are you like Adam Fox does not deserve the amount of hatred that you are giving to him right now. There's 18 million other problems with this team, and Adam Fox is like one of the good players right now. Like, of all the people that deserve your ire, Adam Fox is one of the people that deserve it the least. It's like him and Will Cooley. Like, why people are choosing now to start highlighting that Adam Fox isn't the fastest player in the NHL. But again, you know, and I bring this up every few weeks or so. It's an important thing to keep in mind for everybody that's listening. The number one priority of a defenseman is to defend. If you are a really good defenseman like Adam Fox is, everything else is secondary. Not only is he really good at being a defenseman, he's also a tremendous two-way player. Yeah, he's not the fastest and he's not going to hit everybody at all times. That doesn't mean he's not good defensively, which, by the way, once again, is a defenseman's number one objective. Adam Fox is not the problem. He hasn't been the problem, and he probably won't be the problem. You know, crazier things have happened. So I guess, you know, at this time next year, if he continues this, his quote unquote, very air quotes fall off, then we can have that conversation. But until that point, the Rangers have way bigger things to focus on than Adam Fox.
Okay. You mentioned it. We're going to play a little game, and we're going to try and distill out some blame for this season. So the logic here is player A or player B. Who would you fault more for the Rangers having the type of season they're having right now? We're not including the GM or the coach, because I think fundamentally you would get to the GM as the answer because the GM picks the guys who are on the team. So with that in mind, we start at the very bottom of the problems. Is Jonathan Quick a bigger problem than Jimmy Vesey?
No.
Okay. So Jonathan Quick is off the list.
Sure.
Is Sam Carrick a bigger problem than Jimmy Vesey?
No.
Sam Carrick, noted good guy.
Yeah.
One
and
of the few
guys been that great. Like he's had some really good weeks, some really solid weeks, followed up by like, yeah, he's a guy.
There.
He's definitely skating out there.
Vakanainen or Jimmy Vesey? Bigger problem.
Vakanainen.
Okay, Jimmy Vesey's off the list. Vakanainen or Matt Rempe?
It's a difficult question because like this question isn't even on Matt Rempe himself. It's on the staff for continuing to shove him into the lineup.
I think it has to be Vakanainen because
yeah.
he just plays more.
Yeah, I would agree.
Vakanainen or the departed Capo Caco?
Vakanainen.
Vakanainen or the departed Filipino?
Vakanainen.
Vakanainen or Will Cooley?
Vakanainen.
Vakanainen or Riley Smith?
Vakanainen.
Vakanainen or Will Borgen?
I don't know how to answer that. I guess it's still Vakanainen.
Vakanainen or Alexis Lafreniere?
Lafreniere.
Okay, we've rooted out everybody I have in the lowest tier on the team so far. Alexis Lafreniere or Artemi Panarin?
Lafreniere.
Alexis Lafreniere or K'Andre Miller?
K'Andre Miller.
Okay, Lafreniere's off the list. Alexis Lafreniere, K'Andre Miller or Braden Schneider?
Miller.
Miller or Shesterkin?
Miller.
Miller or Fox?
Miller.
Miller or Kreider?
Kreider.
Kreider or Trocheck?
Oh my god. I would have to say it's Kreider because his drop off is so insane. It needs to be studied, and also like he's still technically he's still in a top line role, and like at least Trocheck has been awful. But like Kreider's fall off is so bad that he's got more of this to blame. Also, like him at 5-on-5 just doesn't exist. Kreider at 5-on-5 is he there? Does he play 5-on-5 minutes? Like I don't know, genuinely.
Kreider or Zibanejad?
Zibanejad, yeah.
And then Zibanejad or Ryan Lindgren?
Ryan Lindgren.
It's funny you say that because I wanted to pull this up, and I think this is very illuminative to the Rangers' issues this year. So, in the minutes the Rangers have played this year with Zibanejad and Ryan Lindgren on the ice together, you want to take a guess at what the Rangers' goal differential is when Zibanejad and Lindgren are on the ice?
It's got to be like minus 40.
They have been outscored 15-7, 5-on-5 in minutes when Ryan Lindgren and Zibanejad are on the ice together. Sure. In minutes where neither of those guys on the ice, the Rangers have outscored opponents 64-61. I think when you distill out the problems with this team, and if you're not starting the list with Lindgren, Zibanejad, I think you're missing the boat. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, those are two guys with the roles they've been given and the associated responsibilities with those roles. I think they're the single two most culpable in the regression this year. Yes. Is Artemi Panarin playing as explosively, dynamically as he did last year? No. But he's still going to lead the team in points, which is why I put these two ahead of him. And then I think
also, and on top of that too, and I don't mean to cut you off, the one of the key aspects to Ryan Lindgren's complete and utter fall off a cliff is not only is he playing miserably badly, but he's anchoring Adam Fox. Yeah. He's making Fox play worse, and the Rangers are playing worse when those two guys are on the ice because of Ryan Lindgren. Like, it's not just Ryan Lindgren being bad in a vacuum. It's, he's so bad that one of the best defensemen in the entire world also looks worse and plays worse with Lindgren on the ice.
Just for shits and giggles, I want to look this up real quick. So in Adam Fox's minutes without Ryan Lindgren this year, he's played 368 minutes without him. He's played 600 minutes with him. And the 368 minutes Adam Fox has played without Ryan Lindgren this year, the Rangers have outscored opponents 24-11. In the minutes they've played together, they've been outscored 27-25. It's really that straightforward. It really is that straightforward. And anybody who's getting into the weeds of complaining about Shesterkin or Fox, you are fundamentally missing the boat. I think it's hilarious that Vince tweeted Shesterkin's stats in his last 5 starts yesterday before the game against the Penguins. And then he was lights out against the Penguins, trying to frame the conversation around the goaltending issue. There isn't a goaltending issue. The team stinks.
Yep.
At a certain point, the team is what it is. Like you said, Andrew, when people tell you who they are, believe them. And this team has showed you who they are. I think that'll do it for this episode. Oh, real quick. We'll try and get out of here under an hour so we don't get clipped when we rerun this later. Four Nations was very fun. Don't poke the bear. That's the rule of thumb I have. It's great they beat Canada once. They did the same thing in 2010 where they beat them in the preliminary round and then lost to them in the final. Fitz on Twitter said it best. They spent 3 days believing their own hype and then went out there and they got in a game with real killers. Like, I love Austin Matthews. I love Jack Eichel. Nathan MacKinnon is an actual killer.
Yeah.
You know, a Chrysler looks like a Phantom till the Phantom pulls up. That's Nathan MacKinnon. As good as Eichel and Matthews were in this tournament, Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid, you're not beating that 1-2. Those are the two best players in the world, and they're on the same team.
Four Nations was a lot of fun.
Great time.
You know, I got out to I tried to get to the Canuck, and here's the thing, like, I wanted to get to the Canuck 2 hours before I was supposed to leave work. I got a text from my friend, hey, there's a line out the door to the Canuck. We are going to a different place. So I had to reroute. Nick had to reroute. I'm sure a lot of other people had to reroute. Like, it seemed like every bar, like even the bar that I ended up going to, because we ended up going to different places, the bar that I went to was packed with people. I'm sure yours was as well. Like, I can't remember the last non-playoff game, hockey playoff game, that drove this kind of attention from people that weren't hockey fans.
You had people saying the NBA needs to learn from the NHL.
Yeah, I know, which is like, that's it. Like
it was 1994.
That's
why
crazy.
why the NHL's hot and why the NBA's not.
Yeah.
What a time that must have been in 1994. You know, no Michael Jordan because he was in his 2 years of playing baseball. You had the Rockets in the finals and you had the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup.
Must really be nice.
It must be nice. Must be nice. All right. That'll do it for this week's edition of Liberty Blue. Andrew and I will talk to you guys next week ahead of the trade deadline. We very well might have an emergency episode between now and next Monday because the NHL trade deadline is not this upcoming Friday. It's next Friday, the 7th. So if the Rangers do indeed start to sell guys off, we